Good evening. This is Maestro Cretella with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Leviathan Hive, and our first player today is none other than Maestro Cretella, playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer, a spellcasting, manipulation hero, and damage hero. My opponent today is Cheddar Bob. What a great name. I really like this name. He is playing as the Blood Raven's Force Commander. This is a tanky melee hero that can disrupt, tie things up, be tanky, punch vehicles, etc. So it's actually really been... it's been a little while since I posted a replay of myself, especially a 1v1 of myself. In fact, I don't think I've really done that since literally like my first few casts, where I actually was casting some games of myself. And part of the reason I do that, I actually don't really like casting games of myself that much. I find that I tend to focus on myself a little too much, as well as I'm often not even really satisfied with the playing, just the games itself that I happen to be in. And I'm playing 1v1, and I haven't really done much 1v1 in a while either. And these days, I'm actually, to be honest, kind of afraid to play 1v1. It's really stressful, really intense. But once you get back into it, it really is a lot of fun. And I actually do like it more than 2v2 and 3v3. And of course, this is a game where I might try to talk a little bit more about some of the strategy that's going on. And that's also one of the things I like about 1v1. I like kind of the very deeply, intensely strategic gameplay of 1v1. I mean, certainly I understand and appreciate the action that can happen in 2v2 and 3v3, but there's something about 1v1 that I really love. Now, I'm playing the Sorcerer, of course, and I'm playing against the Force Commander. For those of you who don't know, and there shouldn't be any of you, this is an incredibly hard matchup. The Sorcerer has several tough matchups, quite a few, and this is one of them. I personally believe it is his third toughest matchup, and I know Tex has himself said it's either second or third. I bet he'll probably say third, behind the Lictor Alpha and then the War Boss, so it's tough to deal with it. What I'm going for right now, I'm starting out with, you can't see it yet, but I'm going for the Noisy build, which is triple Heretics to start out. Then I got a squad of Chaos Space Marines, and I'm going to get a Havoc. So I'm already telling you what's going to happen, but I'm going to get a Havoc. Now, part of the reason to get this build, I think just one of the main signatures of this build is the triple Heretic, which was kind of a paradigm shift for me when I first saw it, when I saw Tex doing it. I definitely first saw Tex doing it, although I'm going to be using the Noisy build. And when I first saw it, I really thought, like, man, I don't see how I could do that, but when you actually try it out, there are some things that really work out well about it. First of all, you're getting 3 units out on the field very cheaply. You can use 1 for map control, and you can actually have 2 like kind of fighting together, and that can really overwhelm a lot of the Space Marine units. And this could also really pressure a shotgun purchase, because despite the damage, the potential range damage of attacks and scouts together, they're usually not going to be able to stop 2 squads of Heretics that are approaching. Right here, part of what I'm doing is I'm actually approaching with the Sorcerer first. And I sometimes do that. I'll actually try to force melee Tactical Marines with Chaos Space Marines, or just try to go in with my Sorcerer, so that either the Sorcerer ties them up first, or just that the Sorcerer, the Chaos Space Marines, tank the damage, and then I send my Heretics in after. Now right here, my Chaos Sorcerer is a little overextended, gonna need to retreat him out of there. And although this is a tough matchup, one of the things that I feel relatively comforting about Space Marines is that they don't really have great retreat killing potential, especially early on in the game, where they're pretty much their only melee unit, aside from heroes, are the Assault Marines. And Assault Marines have pretty low DPS for a melee unit. They're really tough, they're really annoying, and they're still actually a big part of what can make this matchup so tough, but they don't do a whole lot of damage. So that actually really does help in terms of just at least keeping my squads alive. So right there, that was a little risky for me. I kept my Chaos Space Marines out on the field, and part of my intention was I wanted to walk them back into the firing arc of the Havoc, hopefully force off the Chaos Space Marines before their energy force off the Assault Marines before their energy recharges. And actually right there, the energy did recharge, but maybe at that point, Cheddar Bob just did not want to press his luck in terms of he was down to 400 health, although I actually feel like if he jumped his Assault Space Marines on top of my Havoc right there, I think that would have been a good situation for him. Since he would just have his Assault Marines up against weakened Chaos Space Marines as well as a Havoc. Now, right here, I actually have my Havocs force meleeing the Scouts. And part of what I'm doing here, Cheddar Bob, I think he initiated the melee, and I let it go because I actually knew the Havocs would win. Basically, the Havocs, as you can see, they have 675 health. The Scouts have 420. Scouts do 4 DPS melee, and Havocs actually do 12. So you would hardly ever know this, or at least most people would never bother to find something like this out. But basically, if Scouts force melee Havocs or Devastators, the Scouts actually lose. The Scouts even have melee resistance, so they resist 40% of the damage, but they just do so little damage. The Havocs have a higher health pool, and here I catch and I get a Scout Squad. So, and on the other side of things, I was talking about the Space Marine relative lack of retreat killing potential, and that's definitely something that I'm going to excel in here in terms, at least not me personally, but just the composition I have as well as with my chosen race. I have 3 Heretics out on the field. If anything needs to retreat through them, it's going to be a really, really bad day for them, since Heretics are actually pretty much basically the main retreat killing tool for Chaos. They're almost like the Banshees of Chaos, except not really, although much cheaper and better in some ways, although definitely not better in every way. Alright, sending the Assault yeah, that's alright, so that's not going to be a winning engagement for me, but I still have a double cap. I'm going to Tier 2. I'm actually getting to Tier 2 before Cheddar Bob, quite amazingly. Now, Cheddar Bob has invested in a power sword. He has invested in shotguns, and I mean, he lost his other Scout Squad to Heretics, so yeah, I think he's going to want some shotguns. Now, usually a big part of just what's tough in this matchup is mainly the Force Commander. The Force Commander is going to be tying things up 1-to-1. He will beat any single one of the units that I have, pretty much. Certainly, once he ties up the Chaos Space Marines, he's going to beat them. The Heretics, he can always use Battle Cry, and then that'll be just a situation where I'm just going to bleed for my Heretics without actually achieving much. And the Chaos Sorcerer just can't win in a direct fight with the Force Commander. So you mainly... The only way you can really have like a unit that will 1-to-1 be able to deal with the Force Commander is the Havoc, since that will be able to suppress, and then you can just. Ooh, and I wasn't even able to see when I played the game if I did manage to get that Tactical Marine Squad with the Dark Flames on retreat. When I had originally played this game, I was not actually able to tell because it had gone out of my field of vision. So I'm actually doing very well, and this is another thing, and another reason why I sometimes don't post my own games. Sometimes I'll be doing, like, I'll think things are more even than they really are. Like, I didn't realize what an advantage I had at this point. With Cheddar Bob only having a single Scout Squad and some Assault Marines. He did, however, manage to bash a lot of my generators, but I'm actually doing okay in terms of my resources. Actually, almost have enough to go to Tier 3, although that would not be a good idea. But that's definitely... This is actually something that I personally believe about the Sorcerer that I feel is kind of a good... It's definitely a good strategy for when you're playing with the Sorcerer, and I actually feel it's kind of key to winning with him. And that strategy is making sure you get a lot of squad wipes. And I would actually say that the Sorcerer is the best non-Eldar hero in the game for wiping squads. And you can debate that. Certainly, well, definitely debatable. Some Orc heroes actually really, really good at that too. Tyranids probably definitely have some ways to be good at that, but nevertheless, the Sorcerer is extremely good at wiping squads. If you can get squad wipes early on in the game, that can really give you an advantage because you'll actually have a bigger army. And part of what the Sorcerer sometimes struggle with is, especially against his tough matchups with the Lictor Alpha, the War Boss, and the Force Commander, is that usually those races are capable of doing more with less. And I say races, but a lot of it has to do with the hero, and specifically, usually tanky melee heroes, the Lictor Alpha, He actually is kind of a tanky melee hero, although the infiltration is also a big part of what makes him so dangerous for the Sorcerer. But anyway, Cheddar Bob has a Dreadnought coming out on the field, so I'm immediately upgrading to a Las Cannon Havoc. And now this is something that there was actually discussion about this on the forums. I upgraded to a Las Cannon Havoc. I gave up my Heavy Bolter. That was my main answer to the Force Commander. So now my main answer to the Force Commander is gone. Although, to be fair, I have an entirely different answer for the Force Commander. Since Cheddar Bob is upgraded to the Power Sword, he might not want to get the Power Fist. And as long as he has this sword, my Dreadnought is going to definitely be an answer to him. The Dreadnought's going to beat him quite handily. Otherwise, I might also get the Chains of Torment. I'm pretty sure I got that. I can't imagine myself upgrading to a Las Cannon Havoc against a Force Commander and not getting the Chains of Torment. But I know he has a Dreadnought, and at this point I actually really have what I need to take out the Dreadnought. I've got a Las Cannon Havoc. The Las Cannon Havoc does stand the risk to be jumped, and most likely will be jumped. But even if I can get 1 or 2 shots off, that's pretty much enough to give my Chaos Dreadnought a clear advantage over Cheddar Bob's Space Marine Dreadnought. Now, here I'm doing something that, you know, I basically just mob my Heretics on top of those Assault Marines as a way of trying to counter them. And that was something I did in this game, and you'll definitely see me do it again, that basically after the game I kind of reflected on that and felt that that wasn't such a good idea. Because what we saw there was that Cheddar Bob basically he just used Merciless Strike, and then I got all 3 of my Heretic squads hit by Merciless Strike, and that really made them much more... Basically, they all got hit, and that really put them under strength. So what I'm thinking I can do is I can just maybe try to bait out the Merciless Strike with one of the Heretics and let that one take the hit, retreat it off the field, and then I can send the other 2 in at full health. Alright, so I have my Havoc actually taking a shot. Not such a great position, so what I'm going to do is actually teleport it out of there using the Warp Global. And, I mean, in that particular situation, yeah, I just felt I could see that the Havoc was going to get tied up, even though I thought my positioning was going to be good. And here I am, of course, using the Sigil of the Rift to teleport my Havoc even further to continue this kill. Unfortunately, my Dreadnought is now Blood Raged, so I can't manually target the Dreadnought. And I really thought here that the Space Marine Dreadnought was going to get out of the Havoc firing arc, in part because it came extremely close. Now, this does, of course, leave my Chaos Dreadnought a bit overextended in a position where it is being hit by AV, a Melt-A-Bomb, it was snared, and now we have a new tac squad with a missile launcher. And unfortunately, because I already used the Warp Global, it's on cooldown, so I can't use it. So now the question is just, can I get this Dreadnought out of here? The Tactical Marines are still shooting at it with the missile launcher, and I actually feel I made a mistake here. I think I should have maybe tied it up just tied it up with the Dreadnought, and I think actually as a result, yeah, I end up just losing this Dreadnought. Because the only thing I have out on the field is the Heretics, and I think luckily I will at least get the Force Commander, so I do take out the Force Commander, so at least I get something out of that. And I mean, I did kind of get a bit out of this Dreadnought. Arguably the vehicle kill, even though it was the Havoc that ultimately got the last shot. And I mean, I got the Force Commander, which, because this is 1v1, that actually counts for something. He's actually going to have to spend 250 requisition to get the Force Commander back. Now here, I had Chaos Space Marines fighting a bunch of scouts. I actually lost 2 models on my Chaos Space Marines, in part because I wasn't really microing. Alright, now here what I'm trying to do, I'm using the Summoning Circle Global. I want my Chaos Space Marines to stay out on the field, and that actually scares off all of Cheddar Bob's units, and all 2 of his current squads. He's not doing too well on squads at the moment. But basically, just with the way that reinforces, that's actually pretty much the most useful thing about this global right now, and that was actually a really, really big buff for the Sorcerer when that change actually happened. Just the Summoning Circle used to not reinforce, it would just spawn the Bloodletters. And I mean, consequently, I would say prior to the reinforcement being added, I'd say it was a really mediocre global. And lost my train of thought. But anyway, it's really good now that you can reinforce from it. Certainly not. Oh, my train of thought was certainly for the cost, which is it cost 200 red. It was definitely severely overpriced for what it did before. Now, Cheddar Bob isn't really in a strong position. He's got scouts standing by. I think maybe he's positioning his scouts there because he might expect my heretics to go for just the back cap, and then he can just harass my heretics from afar. However, instead, I sent the Chaos Space Marines right there, and just positioning my Chaos Space Marines near the scouts is going to scare them off. Scouts definitely get countered extremely hard by Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, since the Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines just do a huge amount of range damage. The scouts don't do much, and they also just take more damage. So my Havoc doesn't have a vehicle to kill anymore, so I'm actually just going after the generators. And here I'm going to pretty much, I'd say I'd do it again, kind of. Actually that didn't work out the same as before. Basically what I was trying to say was that I thought that was going to be another situation where I was going to get all of my heretics hit by Merciless Strike. Now that was actually really, really lucky for Cheddar Bob. I didn't manage to... really lucky, and I don't want to say that disparagingly. It was also good presence of mind by him, as well as definitely some luck to use this drop pod to reinforce his Assault Marines. Because they were about to die, and they really needed like all of the reinforcement. They came very, very close to dying. Now, unfortunately, I'm off the field again. We have a new Dreadnought out for Cheddar Bob. Maybe he's not really going for... maybe he's not really thinking of going to Tier 3 at this point, just with all the losses he's taken. But I still pretty much just have my Havoc as the only source of AV that I have, and this is part of what can be tough. That's my only source of AV. Cheddar Bob has a unit that can very easily tie that up, and if this Havoc gets forced off the field, I don't have any AV. Now, I'm sending my Havocs over here. I was actually just intending to go for a back cap. I'm actually feeling the pressure of, basically the VP pressure. I'm behind in VPs, despite all the squad wipes I've had. And he's got the triple cap, and you really can't mess around with a triple cap in this game. It's very dangerous, much more so than in Company of Heroes, where the VPs trickle down much more slowly. Certainly in Company of Heroes, I'd say it's more important just win the engagement and then cap, instead of... Dawn of War 2 really puts that kind of pressure on you to actually sometimes cap, even in the middle of an engagement, just because of how dangerous it can be. Now, Cheddar Bob was interestingly just standing his Force Commander right here. I think he might lose the Force Commander in the process from this. Yeah, he does, in fact. And I lost a bunch of stuff as well, but my Heretics are chasing after these Scouts, and I think that's actually going to be a wipe on these Scouts, unfortunately for Cheddar Bob. But Assault Marines now getting kind of overrun. Actually, it's a really bad situation for Assault Marines to be retreating through... I mean, Chaos Space Marines to be retreating through Assault Marines, as well as the Dreadnought. So, I know that Cheddar Bob just won an engagement right near my natural VP. I don't have the contested VP, so that's part of why I sent these Heretics over here, even under strength, to go for a cap on this VP. And I believe I'm going to send these Heretics to the contested VP. So I'm just using the fact that I have extra units, and of course one of the reasons to get a cheap unit, and this is practically the whole mentality behind Scouts, or at least the way it is in the meta of Dawn of War 2, is just that for capturing purposes, all squads and units are equal. Well, not all squads. Oh, and here's another use of the Summoning Circle Global. And basically what I did was here, with an Assault Marine squad right here, they did not have their Sergeant, but with my Heretic squad under strength, I did not actually feel confident that my understrength Heretic squad could beat that Assault Marine squad. So that's why I used the Summoning Circle Global. Both the Bloodletters would force off the Assault Marines, as well as just the Heretics getting reinforced. And I also finally upgraded to an Aspiring Champion. If you noticed, I hadn't upgraded to an Aspiring Champion for much of the game, which is something you can do when you have so many Heretics. You can actually forego the Aspiring Champion upgrade, and in part you actually, in a way, you almost need to, because it's just too many resources to spend getting that many Aspiring Champions. I mean, maybe one out of 1 out of 3, sometimes 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. That's like so much. That's literally the cost of a blood crusher, just getting aspiring champions. So, I mean, usually as it is, when I play double heretic builds, especially in teams, I will usually just get 2 aspiring champions. But I don't think I would ever do it for 3 heretics. If anything, I mean, at some point in the game, like if the heretics actually, like if one of the heretic squads actually gets wiped pretty late in the game, it's probably not that big of a deal, although it's still nice to have them around for just capturing points. That was a horrendous Doombolt. I was trying to go for the Assault Marines, but now I'm just in a pretty advantageous position with, despite the VP bleed that I have, or just the VPs that I've lost, I've got a Predator out on the field, and I'm even straight up upgrading it to the Mark of Tzeentch. And basically, just with that, tanks are really good. They can really turn the course of the game, or if you... It's actually almost a way, just another way of the tech advantage, sometimes helping you out. Since a tank can be pretty hard to deal with, particularly in this case, the Dreadnought is going to really be at the mercy of my Chaos Predator, because it really has no ability to go after the Predator. As long as I'm micro, which we're assuming I am, and hopefully I will, but I mean, just right now we see the Dreadnought can't do a whole lot. Unfortunately there I'm backing up, so I lost targeting on the Dreadnought, and we even have some tactical Marines right here with a missile launcher. I was gonna say, are they gonna target my Predator? I certainly would have been scared if they did. But as is, we have Assault Marines getting dangerously low, but my Heretics are getting dangerously low as well. And I think I probably just forgot them there or something. And he kept that Assault Marine in there just at 1 model. And I think he's going to use another drop pod right here so that he can just reinforce out on the field. So it's very interesting how we're seeing a lot of on-the-field reinforcement play in this game. But meanwhile, I'm still going for back caps. I started playing the kind of passive-aggressive map control game because I was really on the back foot of VPs. But my Havoc is actually shooting at the drop pod, taking it out so that they can't reinforce from there anymore. So Havoc goes down, and ooh, my Assault Marines are in a little bit of trouble right now, or rather my Heretics, because these are definitely not Assault Marines, and I can't even get Assault Marines. But here we go with use Chains of Torment, and there we go with ooh. So that was, and that was actually the end of the game. But I had subjugated. First I did Chains of Torment to just snare them in place, and then I was using the Tactical Marines with the missile launcher to take out the Dreadnought. And one more shot, and I would have taken out the Dreadnought that way. But Cheddar Bob actually conceded. I mean, at this point, he really did lose nearly everything. So I don't know. And this actually it's kind of how I feel about a lot of the games that I end up playing, and I didn't actually like it that much, but I don't know. Maybe it was okay. And part of the reason I will occasionally want to do a cast of myself is that there really is no time where I'm going to explain kind of the intricacies of 1v1 as well as in a game of myself, just because I know what I was thinking in the game and I can really explain my own thinking. Alright. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.